What up, y'all? This is your boy, Mr. Downtown Ray Melo, and you're listening to the Entertainment Report on iHeartRadio, live from Dubai for Monday, November 16th, 2015, delivering some major stories and trends going on in the world of entertainment and beyond. You can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, facebook.com/The Entertainment Report with Ray Melo, that's RAYMELO, on Twitter at The Enter Report, or on Instagram at The Entertainment Report. You can listen to the show anytime you want on iHeartRadio. Just go to iHeart.com or your iHeart phone app, search for the Entertainment Report, and it'll take you to the page. Now, usually each Monday, I start the program by saying I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend, but that wasn't the case this weekend because we've all been affected by the tragic events that occurred with the terrorist attacks in Paris on Friday that left 153 people dead and 200 others wounded. And we're going to dedicate most of the program and episode today providing you guys with information regarding the latest on the siege in Paris and reactions from the Hollywood and entertainment community. And I'm going to try my very best to change the tone of the program by adding a few other major stories that happened outside of the Paris attacks, but I doubt, I can't promise you anything, so I'm just going to try and go with the flow of things because this is a story that has overexceeded everything else that happened over the weekend, and it's really important to pay close attention to this story and have a bit of retrospect as to what we need to do to avoid something like this from happening again. So here's what we know so far. A series of coordinated deadly attacks at an estimate 7 locations around Paris on Friday, including a concert hall, soccer stadium, and restaurant that killed at least 153 people and injured another 200 in what officials called the worst act of terrorism since 9/11. French President François Hollande declared a state of emergency and shut all national borders in response to the crisis. The city announced the closures of all schools, museums, libraries, gyms, swimming pools, and markets on Saturday. Disneyland Paris outside the city was also closed. Attackers took dozens of hostages at the popular Bataclan concert hall where an American band called Eagles of Death Metal were performing. But when the police stormed the venue hours later, 100 people were found dead. Journalist and concert goer Julian Pierce told CNN of the attackers they were not moving. They were just standing in the back of the concert room and shooting at us as if we were birds. By Saturday morning, The Guardian reported that the death toll was about 153 with victims in multiple locations, including 100 shot dead in the Bataclan. Another 18 were killed in the Boulevard de Charion, 14 at the Rue Albert, and 5 at the Rue de la Fontaine. There were more deaths reported as well. Paris prosecutor François Molins said that some people were killed at the Stade de France, but it was not clear whether they were attackers or victims. A French prosecutor said that the 8 attackers had been killed, 7 of them in suicide bombings, but police are still hunting for the additional assailants as well as accomplices. French police launched a raid on the concert hall, killing up to 3 gunmen and freeing an undetermined number of concert goers, according to news reports. Agent France Press also cited a witness who claims the attackers shouted Allah Akbar, which means in Islam, God is great, before firing into the crowd, which was reportedly as large as 1,500. Just north of Paris, at least 3 explosions were reported near France's main sports stadiums, which prompted the evacuation of French President François Hollande. The blast took place early in the game, which proceeded until its conclusion. French police stated that at least 2 of the explosions were carried out by suicide bombers. A police official speaking on the conditions of the anonymous also told the Associated Press on Friday that 11 people were killed in the Cambodian restaurant targeted in the attack. Hollande addressed the nation in televised speech declaring a state of emergency and closing the French borders in wake of the attacks. Hollande said, France must be strong and great. The terrorist wants us to be afraid, and there is a reason to be afraid. Keep your confidence in our security forces to stop these terrorist attacks. President Obama pledged support to the French government in an address to the nation. He says, "We've seen an outrageous attempt to terrorize innocent civilians. It is an attack not just on Paris, not just the people of France, but all of humanity and the universal values we share." He continued by saying, "We stand prepared and ready to provide whatever assistance the people of France and the government need to respond." Obama also said that he had not yet contacted President Hollande, but had coincidentally spoke to him earlier in the day in preparation for the G20 summit. Comparisons were immediately drawn to the Charlie Hebdo attack in January, where government stormed into the satirical newspaper that had printed images of the Muslim prophet Muhammad killing 12 and wounding 11. Hollywood took to Twitter to express their disbelief and condolences about the terrorist attacks in Paris. Tegan and Sarah tweeted, "Our hearts and thoughts are with the people of France." Alexa Chung tweeted, "Terrible news, thinking of everyone in Paris." Cyclist great Lance Armstrong tweeted, "Absolutely terrible news coming out of France this evening, thinking of all those affected in Paris." Country singer Brad Paisley tweeted, "So heartbroken over Paris." Actor Matt Bomer tweeted, "Thoughts and prayers with Paris right now." Sophia Bush tweeted, "Thinking of everyone in Paris. Police and #Paris are urging people to remain indoors right now. If you are safe, stay where you are." Gregory Van Derriere, the famous soccer player, tweeted, "Shocked by the news from Paris. Stay safe. My thoughts go out to the victims and their families and friends." WWE superstar Summer Rae tweeted, "How horrific, praying for Paris right now and my friends who are there. It completely saddens me to hear all of this. #prayers for Paris." Musician Jack Johnson tweeted, "Prayer for Paris. Heard some serious act of terrorism going on right now. Not sure all the details, but my prayers go out." Politician Marco Rubio tweeted, "Prayers for victims of attacks in Paris and for those reportedly held hostage." Mika tweeted, "Just landed in Paris amid all the confusion, bombing, and attacks. It's horrible." Joe Jonas tweeted, "Praying for Paris." Norman Buckley tweeted, "It's shocking and horrible what's happened in Paris. I hold that beloved city in my thoughts." Model Karuchi Tran tweeted, "Prayers for Paris." Zelda Williams tweeted, "Such an unthinkable violence. Unbelievable. Stay safe and strong, Paris. All our thoughts are with you." Democratic nominee Dr. Ben Carlson tweeted, "My thoughts and prayers are with the people in Paris tonight." Hillary Clinton tweeted, "The reports from Paris are harrowing. Prayers for the city and families of the victims." Cassidy Pope tweeted, "I've never been to Paris, but it has always been a dream of mine to visit. So sad to see what's happening there right now. Thoughts are with you." Chad Michael Murray tweeted, "Just heard about Paris. God bless you guys affected by this awful tragedy. Sending prayers." Pop star Demi Lovato tweeted, "Just heard about Paris. Praying for y'all right now." Piers Morgan tweeted, "Oh my God, #Paris." Kendall Jenner tweeted, "Praying for Paris." The rock group Imagine Dragons tweeted, "Paris, we are sending you our love. We are heartbroken." Kerry Washington tweeted, "Prayers for Paris right now." Alex Morgan tweeted, "Praying for everyone affected in Paris right now." Larry King tweeted, "Shocked and saddened by the attack in Paris. Such evilness is incomprehensible to me." Nash Greer tweeted, "Prayers to go out to the families involved in the Paris tragedy." Ashley Benson tweeted, "Praying for Paris." Basketball star LeBron James tweeted, "As I get ready for my game, I can't help but to think of the tragedy in Paris. My God, what's up with people? Prayers sent to all the families." Former President Bill Clinton tweeted, "My thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Paris tonight." Comedian Josh Gad tweeted, "My thoughts and prayers go out to the citizens of #Paris." Shannon Doherty tweeted, "I am praying for you, Paris." DFF tweeted, "Pray for Paris. It's under multiple attacks. Love, Diane." Republican nominee Donald Trump tweeted, "My prayers are with the victims and hostages in the horrible Paris attacks. May God be with you." Sam Smith tweeted, "My hearts and thoughts and prayers are with all the families and friends of the victims and all the people in Paris tonight." Backstreet Boys tweeted, "Prayers for you, Paris. Deeply saddened to hear of the events. Nos t'aimons, Paris." Zendaya tweeted, "Pray for Paris." Saturday Night Live paid tribute to Paris one day after the deadly terrorist attacks that claimed 153 lives and injured 200 more. The NBC show opened with cast member Cicely Strong standing on stage in Rockefeller Center's Studio 8H facing the camera. Strong said, appearing to be visibly choked up, "Paris is a city of light, and here in New York, we know that light will never go out. Our love and support is with everyone there tonight. We stand with you." She then repeated the message in French. Then Strong added, "And now, live from New York, it's Saturday night." Elizabeth Banks hosted Saturday Night Live Saturday evening with musical guest Disclosure. Approximately 4.1 million people marked themselves safe on Facebook after the terrorist attacks in Paris. Notification went out to 360 million people informing them that their friends were safe after the social media platform enabled its safety check feature. The service enables users to mark themselves as safe should they find themselves in the affected area of a large-scale disaster, alerting their friends and followers. In all, 78 million people have engaged in 183 million Facebook interactions relating to the attacks since multiple explosions and shootings took place in Paris Friday night. Thousands were watching a soccer match at the Stade de France outside France when several bombs detonated as part of coordinating attacks across the French capital. At around the same time, gunmen walked into the Bataclan concert hall while Southern California band Eagles of Death Metal were performing a show. Gunmen also embarked a shooting rampage in the 10th, 11th, and 18th arrondissement of Paris. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the Paris terrorist attacks, which, in addition to the deaths, have also left more than 200 more injured. A tearful Geraldo Rivera broke down on Friday over his daughter Simone, who was one of the thousands watching a soccer match at the Stade de France outside Paris when several bombs detonated as part of the coordinated attacks across the French capital. The emotional Rivera told Shepard Smith on Fox News, referring to the Eagles of Death Metal performance at the Bataclan concert hall where the worst carnage took place. "I just thank God she wasn't at the rock concert, but it was at the soccer stadium." Rivera said, "We don't want her to travel. We don't want her to do anything. Just lock her down until they sort this out." The veteran news anchor lost his composure when he showed a picture of him and his daughter together. He cried, "Here's my gorgeous daughter. It's a lot easier to report these things than to experience them myself." He continued, describing his 21-year-old daughter as a wonderful person with a gentle soul. Rivera also spoke to Simone on Fox News, who was recounting the horrific sequence of events at the soccer stadium. She said, I'm shaking still, describing the chaos at the game when bombs went off and being stranded afterwards as all transportation shut down." An emotional Rivera asked his daughter, "Do you want to come home, honey?" She answered, "I do. I want to come home." And earlier Saturday morning, Rivera took on to Twitter to call on President Obama to go to war against ISIS. He tweeted, "We are our nation at war at Patas. We must see this and lead an all-out effort to #kill ISIS. They surely want to kill us and everything we hold dear." Many of the late-night hosts were off on Friday night, but those who were on duty weighed in on their thoughts on the terrorist attacks in Paris. The Late Show host Stephen Colbert got emotional at the end of his show when he used his final segment to address the day's events. A visibly shaken Colbert said, "Folks, we end tonight's show with a heavy heart because we taped all of tonight's show, and then we found out about the horrific attacks in Paris today." He said, "I know that nothing much is known right now, but we do know that there has been many deaths. The crisis is still ongoing. President Hollande has declared a state of emergency, and President Obama has promised the United States will do whatever it takes to bring the terrorists to justice. We add our thoughts and prayers to everyone in Paris, and now we'll see you on Monday. Good night." Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show didn't address the Paris terrorist attacks. Many shows did not air new episodes on Friday, including Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and The Late Late Show with James Corden. Bill Maher, whose HBO series Real Time goes live at 10 p.m., opened his show by saying, "Before we get to the hilarity, I just want to say one thing to the people of Paris." He then sang a bar from Le Marseillaise, the French national anthem, before adding that it was his way of saying, "We're with you." Maher's first guest was Azra Normani, the author of Stand Alone in Mecca, an American woman's struggle for the soul of Islam. She had been outspoken on Muslim reform and women's rights, and Maher devoted a great deal of the interview to repeat what he has said before, that liberals are too timid to criticize radical Islam, in particular Sharia law, for fear of appearing intolerant. That was the topic of a fierce debate last year on the show between Maher and Ben Affleck. He said, maybe it's a small percentage who carries out terrorist attacks, but it's not a small percentage who believes in some of the illiberal ideas that support terrorism. The attacks was also further with the panel that included Jay Leno, Dylan Ratigan, and Michael Steele. Maher's question was, why do they hate us? One of the issues discussed was why more Middle Eastern countries have not stepped up to fight ISIS. Steele says this is a different dynamic. This is a different war. This is a different level of engagement as we have seen in Paris tonight, as we have seen in Boston, for example. It is a homegrown thing that is very difficult. Maher said, but bombing them over there is what's causing the Paris thing to happen. That connection needs to be made. We don't need to be bombing them there. Ragnan said, we don't need to be bombing them. It doesn't have to be us. The terror attacks in Paris was the focal point of Saturday's Democratic presidential debate. All three Democratic presidential candidates declined to blame Islam or Muslims for the deadly terrorist attacks in Paris when asked during Saturday's debate. After opening the debate with comments on the Paris attacks from each candidate, CBS moderator John Dickerson asked Hillary Clinton whether she agreed with Republican President Marco Rubio, who said earlier that the U.S. is at war with radical Islam. Clinton said, we are not at war with Muslims or Islams. We are at war with violent extremism. Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley also declined to use the word Islam or Muslims in conjunction with the terrorist attacks. Sanders said the term is not what's important. What's important is we have organizations like ISIS and Al-Qaeda who want us to go back several thousand years, who believe we should make women third-class citizens, that children should be sexually assaulted. Former Maryland Governor O'Malley also refused to use the words radical Islam, calling it what is to say radical jihadists, he said. Let's not fall into the trap of thinking our Muslim neighbors and friends are our enemies. We're going to defeat ISIS there and around the world because Muslim Americans in our country and around the world are going to see ISIS as perverting the name of a great religion. All three candidates also stressed the importance of Muslim countries in the Middle East participating in the fight against ISIS and other extremist groups. Sanders said, name-checking countries, including Jordan and Turkey, the Muslim nations in the region, these nations are going to have to get their hands dirty, boots on the ground. Those countries are going to have to get deeply involved. We should be supportive, but those Muslim countries are going to have to lead the effort, which they are not now. Clinton disagreed with Sanders, touting Jordan's involvement in the fight thus far, for which the country has received its own fair share of terror threats. But she continued, Turkey and the Gulf nations have to make up their minds. Are they going to stand up with us or not? They need to be absolutely clear about where they stand. While the debate was expected to focus mainly on national security and foreign policy following the Paris attacks, the conversation shifted back onto the economy and domestic policy after the first 30 minutes. The NFL assured football fans across the country that there would be an increased security and law enforcement presence at games on Sunday and Monday in the wake of the Paris terror attacks, which included explosions outside a soccer stadium. The league sent a statement to the media on Saturday that it had been in communication with the FBI and the Homeland Security since the tragic events in France, and that both agencies concluded there are no known threats against NFL stadiums. Despite that announcement, the NFL has decided to beef up security, but both inside and outside of the 13 football stadiums hosting games this weekend, including surrounding parking lots where fans often congregate to tailgate before games. According to the media reports, one of the perpetrators of the attacks outside France's national soccer stadium tried to enter the stadium, but his explosive vest was discovered by security. It was detonated in the midst of the ensuing chase. The NFL will have metal detectors in place of all stadium entrances, and the league encourages fans to avoid bringing bags to the game for security reasons, as law enforcement officials for each of the 13 home teams will be on high alert. One of the victims who died in the terrorist attacks on Friday night in Paris was Nick Alexander, who sold merchandise for Eagles of Death Metal during the band's European tour. He was confirmed as one of the casualties of the terrorist attacks at Paris's Bataclan concert hall on Friday night. Alexander was 36 years old, and his friends have set up a GoFundMe account for a memorial fund. His family issued a statement about his death. It is with huge sorrow that we can confirm that our beloved Nick lost his life at the Bataclan last night. Nick was not just our brother, son, and uncle. He was everyone's best friend, generous, funny, and fiercely loyal. Nick died doing the job he loved, and we take great comfort in knowing how much he was cherished by his friends around the world. Thank you for your thoughts and respect for our family at this difficult time. Peace and light. In addition to serving as a merchandise manager for the band, Alexander worked with Sum 41, Panic at the Disco, and the Black Keys. On Saturday, Patrick Carney and Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys were among the musicians to pay tribute to Alexander on Twitter. Patrick Carney tweeted, "My thoughts are with everyone affected by the attacks that happened yesterday in Paris." Fall Out Boy guitarist Joe Trollman also took to Twitter to remember Alexander. "Just found out Nick Alexander was one of the people murdered last night in Paris. Great guy, I'm horrified. Hashtag RIP Nick Alexander." As an estimate of 100 people died at the Bataclan, including Thomas Ayad, an international product manager for Mercury Records, a label that works with eagles of death metal. Universal Music Group Chairman CEO Lucian Grain confirmed the sad news in a letter to staffers on Saturday. Ayad, who is 34, was one of several UMG Mercury team members who attended the Eagles of Death Metal concert, though he is currently the only confirmed casualty among the groups, as all the band members survived the terrifying attack. Grange wrote, "Today is a dark day. We are a family. Let's support one another as we grapple with the weight of this darkness." And he calls the attacks an unspeakable, appalling tragedy. He wrote in a letter, "Dear colleagues, today I'm writing to you with a heavy heart. We, like so many around the world, are struggling with last night's horrific tragedy in France. Paris is in our thoughts and prayers. We extend our deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of the victims, as well as our fervent wishes for healing for all of those affected by this senseless violence. This is especially painful and personal for all of us. As many of you know, the band Eagles of Death Metal is part of the UME and Mercury France family. The band and its crew, as well as our own team from Mercury and other UMG staff, were present at the Bataclan Theater for last night's show. At this point, we have confirmed that Thomas Ayad, an international product manager for Mercury Records, lost his life in the attack on the theater. This is an unspeakable, appalling tragedy. I cannot even begin to express the depth of my sorrows. On behalf of everyone here at UMG, we extend our most profound sympathies to his parents and all of his friends and families. We will update you further as information permits. In the meantime, please send all healing thoughts and prayers for those affected by this heinous act. Today is a dark day. We are a family. Let's support one another as we grapple with the weight of this darkness. Sincerely, Lucian. Two of the world's biggest rock groups have decided to cancel shows in the wake of the terrorist attacks in Paris. U2's Saturday and Sunday night Paris concerts were canceled in the wake of the deadly terrorist attacks that have left over 153 people dead. The November 14th and 15th shows were set to take place at the Berksey Arena, which is roughly just 3 miles from the Bataclan Theater. The concert venue where dozens of hostages were held captive before being killed Friday. HBO had planned to air a concert special from the scheduled Saturday night performance, which was planned as part of the Irish rock band's current Innocence and Experience World Tour. The special was announced this summer. Now the feature film Jersey Boys has replaced the show on HBO's schedule. Friday night, the band posted a statement to their website. As a result of the ongoing state of emergency across France, the U2 Paris concert scheduled for the 14th of November will not be going ahead as planned. U2 and Live Nation, along with HBO, who are due to live broadcast the Saturday concert, are fully resolved to go ahead with this show at an appropriate time. Speaking from Paris, the band says, "We watch in disbelief and shock at the unfolding events in Paris, and our hearts goes out to all the victims and their families across the city. We are devastated at the loss of life at the Eagles of Death Metal concert, and our thoughts and prayers are with the band and their fans. And we hope and pray that all of our fans in Paris are safe." Shortly before Paris fell under attack, U2 frontman Bono posted a self-tape video on the band's Facebook page promoting the HBO special. Since thousands of fans have commented with different perspectives, some have urged U2 to still perform, as they'll bring happiness to concertgoers in the city, while others have pleaded for the band to cancel the show in respect of the horrifying events. On Saturday, the band revisited the statement on their website to reflect that the Sunday concert would also be canceled. They said, as a result of the ongoing state of emergency across France, the U2 Paris concert scheduled for the 14th-15th will not be going ahead as planned. And the Foo Fighters have canceled its remaining tour dates in Europe following the terror attacks in Paris. The Foo Fighters said in a joint statement, "It is with profound sadness and heartfelt concern for everyone in Paris that we have been forced to announce the cancellation of the rest of the tour. In light of the senseless violence, the closing of borders, and international mourning, we can't continue right now. There's no other way to say it. This is crazy and it sucks. Our hearts and prayers are with everyone who was hurt or who lost a loved one." The Foos had been scheduled for 4 more European dates, including a stop at the Accords Hotels Arena in Paris on November 16th and a stop in Lyon the next day. And now let's take a look at what happened on this date in entertainment history. On this date in 1959, The Sound of Music premieres on Broadway. Did the young Austrian nun named Maria really take to the hills surrounding Salzburg to sing spontaneously of her love of music? Did she comfort herself with thoughts of copper kettles? And did she swoon to her future husband's song about an alpine flower while the creeping menace of Nazism spread across Central Europe? No, the real-life Maria von Trapp did none of those things. She was indeed a former nun, and she did indeed married Count George von Trapp and became stepmother to his large brood of children. But nearly all of the particulars she related in her 1949 book, The Story of the Trapp Family Singers, were ignored by the creators of the Broadway musical her memoir inspired. And while the liberties taken by the show's writers Howard Lindsay and Russell Krauss and its composer and lyricist Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II caused some consternation to the real Maria von Trapp and to her stepchildren, according to many later reports, those liberties made The Sound of Music a smash success from the very night of its Broadway opening on this date in 1959. With a creative team made up of Broadway legends and a star of enormous popular and bankable as Mary Martin, it was no surprise that The Sound of Music drew enormous advance sales, but the audience continued to flock to The Sound of Music despite sometimes tepid reviews, like the one in the New York Times that said the show, quote, lacked the final exhaustion that marks the difference between a masterpiece and a well-produced musical entertainment. Reviewer Brooks Atkinson said, however, single out affecting beauty of the music from The Sound of Music as saving it from a story verging on to sticky. Sticky or no, The Sound of Music was an instant success, and numerous songs from its score, including Do Re Mi, My Favorite Things, and Climb Every Mountain, quickly entered the popular canon. Indeed, the original cast recording of The Sound of Music was nearly as big as a phenomenon as the show itself. Recorded just a week after the show's premiere on this date in 1959 and released by Columbia Records, the album shot to the top of the Billboard album charts on its way to selling upwards of 3 million copies worldwide. Also on this date in 2001, the British author J.K. Rowling's star creation bespectacled boy wizard Harry Potter makes his big screen debut in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which opens in movie theaters across the United States. Based on the mega best-selling fantasy novel of the same name, the film, which stars Daniel Radcliffe in the title role, went on to become one of the highest-grossing movies in history. The first Harry Potter film was directed by the American filmmaker Chris Columbus, whose previous directing credits include Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire. Radcliffe, prior to being selected to play Harry, had appeared in a BBC production of David Copperfield, as well as the 2001 film The Tailor of Panama, which starred Pierce Brosnan. British actors Rupert Grint and Emma Watson were chosen for the roles of Harry's friends Ron and Hermione. A roster of celebrated actors took supporting roles in the film and its various sequels, including Ralph Fiennes, Maggie Smith, Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson, Richard Harris, and Gary Oldman. Today, the Harry Potter films are the most financially successful series in history, having surpassed both the Star Wars and James Bond franchises. Before I go, I would like to take a moment to send my deepest condolences to the families of the victims who died on Friday in the terrorist attacks in France. Our hearts are with you, not only for us in the United States, but all over the world. Our deepest sympathies to you guys. And that is your entertainment report for Monday, November 16th, 2015. I'm your host, Mr. Downtown Ray Melo. I'll be back tomorrow to deliver some major stories and trends going on in the world of entertainment and beyond. You can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Facebook.com/The Entertainment Report with Ray Melo. That's RAYMELO. On Twitter at The Enter Report, or on Instagram at The Entertainment Report. You can listen to this episode or any previous episodes of The Entertainment Report anytime you want on iHeartRadio. Just go to iHeart.com or your iHeart phone app, search for The Entertainment Report, and it'll take you to the page. Good night, and God bless you all. And to all of you listening from France, bonne nuit et voix bénies to Dieu.